I love a good cup of coffee, and I especially love it at a coffee shop. And I've been wondering, where does this coffee culture come from? Let's find out. Coffee culture dates as far back as the 14th century in Turkey, where coffee houses were considered social hubs as well as artistic and intellectual centers. South Africa's journey with coffee isn't as old as that. It only started in the 1800s, and it started with coffee farms in the KwaZulu-Natal area, with crops grown in warm, temperate climates at altitudes between 200 meters and 800 meters. From my research, one of the very first coffee shops is from the Masterton family, who first brought coffee to South Africa by ship. Scotsman Ronald Jock Masterton started out as a professional tea taster in Ceylon, which is current-day Sri Lanka. That was a few years after World War I. He then moved to South Africa, and on the 4th of December 1924, he opened what has lived on to become one of South Africa's first coffee shops and roasteries, which was on 33A Queen Street, which is now Govan Mbeki Avenue. It was called the Tea and Coffee House. So not just pure coffee, tea and coffee house, but people referred to it colloquially as the Coffee House. Tea importers Glenton and Mitchell, now known as the Joko tea brand, first helped him to import his coffee beans up until 1966. That was when he started using the family name Masterton's. He also started importing his own coffee beans shortly afterwards. Masterton's coffee shop was rare because for the most part tea remained the hot beverage of choice, and plain old instant coffee was a staple in most households. People didn't really care for anything more advanced than instant coffee. This was until the late 1990s when coffee shops suddenly started popping up. And I presume this came from overseas experience when South Africans, after apartheid, traveled and experienced coffee shops abroad, and they wanted to bring those coffee shops to the big cities in South Africa. I know, for example, that the Seattle Coffee Company, which everybody knows, which is in garages everywhere, was started because Pete and Barry visited the London Seattle Coffee Co. and realized that, well, South Africa also needed this, which I have to agree. Seattle Coffee Company was one of the first coffee shops, if not the first coffee shop, to have payment and pickup at the counter, which is the style that we use in most coffee shops today. They were also the first to ban smoking in a coffee shop, which was a big deal back then. Since then, the local coffee industry has flourished, especially in the bigger cities such as Joburg and Cape Town. Cape Town boasts the largest number of independent roasters in South Africa. A little bit more on Cape Town because now I moved to Cape Town, so I'm in the scene. Cape Town's CBD is home to more than 70 coffee shops. So what's driving this rise in coffee culture in South Africa? One of the biggest factors is the growing middle class, who seem to have a little bit more disposable income to spend on premium coffee. I also think that the rise in social media has created a new wave of coffee enthusiasts who are eager to try new blends and brewing methods and then share these experiences on their social media. And people want to be trendy, so they want to go take selfies, post on their Instagram stories of them experiencing those local coffee shops and going to the new ones, the more exciting ones. People are looking for those Instagram-worthy moments, and coffee shops seem to provide this. Specifically, specialty coffee shops have appeared in cities across South Africa, and these offer customers a very unique experience. These specialty coffee shops source their coffee from small independent farmers and use artisanal brewing methods to create unique and tasty blends. These coffee shops might demonstrate techniques such as Chemex, V60, nitro-infused coffee, all those lovely, cool artisanal coffee making methods. In these coffee shops, customers can enjoy a cup of coffee that has been carefully crafted by experts who are passionate about their craft. People love this. And in addition to specialty coffee shops, South Africa has also seen a rise in festivals and competitions, specifically coffee festivals. These events bring together coffee enthusiasts from across the country to celebrate their shared passion for coffee. Attendees of these festivals can sample different blends and brewing methods, attend workshops and seminars, and even watch baristas compete in latte art competitions, which is pretty cool. The rise in coffee culture is not going to slow down anytime soon because we have a growing middle class, people that want to pay more to get a premium quality coffee, as well as people that are craving new experiences, unique methods of making coffee, and they're going to keep wanting to try new and better, more exciting coffee in the years to come. Now, of course, you guys know me on my channel. I like looking at the history. So let's take a few minutes to look at the history of coffee in South Africa. So coffee was originally introduced to Natal in 1854 from Bourbon, with more plants being sent later from Ceylon, Sri Lanka. By the 1870s, there was widespread interest among coastal farmers in coffee, despite the heavy losses in coffee plantations through frost in 1869. It is said that there were almost 2,000 hectares of coffee by 1870. In 1874, however, the disease that destroyed the Indian and Ceylon coffee plantations then came and attacked Natal. To counter this, in 1874 and again in 1875, new varieties of coffee were imported from Kew gardens in the UK. By 1879, unfortunately, many of these coffee plantations had been destroyed by pests, disease, unsuitable soil, climate, and careless conditions that led to the coffee not growing well, I guess. The destruction of the coffee industry at that stage was said to be due to a lack of knowledge, lack of insecticides and fungicides, and the rapid rise of the tea and sugar industries that took place in Natal. It actually took another 100 years before coffee was reintroduced in this region. According to Skalk Skuman of the Agricultural Research Center, during the 1930s, experimental plantings were done at the old government research facility in Rustenburg. At this stage, very few commercial plantations existed because it just wasn't sustainable enough. But there were some plantations known to exist north of the Mchalisberg near Silkatsnek. During this time, the Skeed family also planted the first coffee beans in the Machubuskloof area, and in 1963, coffee was planted on a commercial basis on the Grenshoek tea estate near Tsanin. In the 1960s, sugarcane quotas were cut by 25%, and a search for an alternative crop had to be made. A man called Mr. Robinson, who was the director of the Yamunga Coffee Research Station in Tanzania, was invited down to make an investigation, and his favorable report was published in the Sugar Journal of September 1961. Following on this report, the Coffee Growers Association was formed, and they imported 2 seeds from Kenya, or 2 seed varieties from Kenya, not just 2 individual seeds, you get me. These seeds were then planted and actually flourished quite well. At its peak, South Africa was producing between 1,500 and 2,000 tons, which is quite a lot. And those figures were published in the 1975 journal. There wasn't much expansion of the coffee industry over the next few years, but then high international prices of coffee during the 1970s, linked to political imperatives of the time, apartheid, forced government to seriously consider making coffee locally because they couldn't get it from overseas due to sanctions. By 1988, 1,525 hectares of Arabica coffee was already planted, and then a further 380 hectares were approved. The former cabinet of South Africa also approved possible further expansions of up to 5,400 hectares. Unfortunately, the high cost of labor, pests and disease again, especially to the white coffee stem borer, as well as low international prices, which came down after apartheid when South Africa was independent, ensured that very few of these farms ever realized much of a profit. So it was much cheaper to just import coffee from overseas than to do so locally. One by one, the estates had to close down, and by 2001, there wasn't even more than 100 hectares of local farming under production. Plus minus 5 years ago, there was a great interest to resuscitate one of the old coffee farms in the Limpopo province. For this, a number of trees were acquired, but the project ran into some difficulties shortly thereafter. Those coffee trees were then subsequently planted on a commercial farm in the Sabi River Valley, which then sparked a renowned interest in the crop. So now you can actually get coffee from the Sabi River Valley, Sabi coffee. I've tried it, it was actually very nice. And that's local South African coffee, which is very nice. It's pretty cool. With ideal climatic conditions and experienced farmers in South Africa actually has a great foundation to produce world-class coffee. So when you're next taking a sip of that delicious coffee, sit back and appreciate the history of the coffee and where it comes from. And who knows, maybe the South African coffee industry can grow even more and we can actually farm more of our own coffee. In the comments down below, let me know what your favorite coffee shop is. Where is your go-to place for getting coffee? As you can see, the set is different So I've moved to Cape Town, and one of my favorite coffee shops in Cape Town is Rosetta Roastery. I really like that, so that's mine. But pop in the comments below what is your favorite coffee shop, and I'll read those. And if it's in Cape Town, I'll try visit it as well. But thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, it really helps, and hit the like button.